No matter what extraction shooter game you play, you probably have come across some of these or all of these rules that I'm about to give you. Rule number 5 is that expensive gear doesn't make you a better player. You buy an expensive body armor and helmet with face cover, you build your M4 to be an absolute beast, you load with tier 5 ammo, and you feel like the chances of surviving went up for some reason. You load into the raid, you move towards the highest tier loot area on the map, and less than 40 seconds later, you die. All that money, all that preparation, gone in the blink of an eye. There is a massive misconception among mostly newer players that the reason they are losing gunfights is simply because their opponent had better gear. It's the easiest excuse in the book. While it's true that high-tier equipment provides a mathematical advantage in a straight-up face-to-face damage trade, extraction shooters are almost never about straight-up damage trades. They're about positioning, timing, audio awareness, and map knowledge. High-tier gear is not an alternative for fundamental game sense, it's an extra thing. Think of your raw skill, your positioning, your crosshair placement, your map knowledge as a base number. Think of your gear as a multiplier. If your base skill level is 0, because you sprinted across an open field without checking your corners, multiplying that 0 by $1 million loadout still equals 0. But extraction shooters are intentionally designed with mechanics specifically put in place to ensure that a level 1 player with a cheap gear always has a theoretical chance to kill a max level player, and I'm referring to the leg meta. Also, relying too heavily on expensive, fully modded weapons will ruin your mechanical growth as a player. If you only ever use guns that have zero recoil and thermal scopes that lights up enemies in bright white, you never learn how to manually control recoil patterns. You never train your eyes to spot the visual anomalies of a camouflaged player hiding in the shadows. You might reach to the point where you run out of money and you have to use a basic iron sight rifle, and you will find yourself completely unable to win a fight. And I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that it's not fun playing with no recoil weapons and killing everyone, but when your armor or your weapon cannot save you, you are forced to play smarter. You start paying attention to exactly where the hard cover is, you start learning the flank routes that keep you out of sight, you learn how to use flashbangs, smoke grenades, and pure tactical aggression to overwhelm an opponent rather than relying on your armor to absorb their bullets or at your weapon's recoil to get the kill. Once you have mastered the fundamentals of the game using mid gear, then you can put on the tier 5 or tier 6 armor and the meta weapons. Because at that point, you aren't using the gear to cover up your mistakes. You are using the gear to enhance your already deadly playstyle. And never forget that the deadliest weapon in any extraction shooter is not the gun in your hands, but the brain inside your skull, because money cannot buy survival. Rule number 5 is that greed kills more players than enemies. Think about this. You are looting your kill that you just got and you realize that your backpack is full of loot, either gear or items, and it's more than enough that you would thought of making in a single raid. You are debating with yourself to either extract or get one more kill at motel as you have heard gunshots. A little voice in the back of your head whispers that you have some spare space and you can afford to fight one more time. And that's exactly when greed takes over and everything goes south and you lose everything you have looted so far. You just lost more than 2 million in loot value because you wanted more than that, even though it was enough to fund your loadout for your future raids. In extraction shooters, greed is a terminal disease. It manifests in a few different highly lethal ways, but the most common symptom is what the community calls inventory Tetris. And I believe we have all been guilty of this. You are standing over a dead body in the middle of a high traffic hallway. Instead of grabbing the most valuable item and immediately repositioning, you spend 45 seconds dragging and dropping magazines, rotating helmets, and calculating the exact value per slot ratio of different items. While you're doing all that inventory Tetris, your character is locked in an animation staring at the floor and making zipping sounds to every player within a 50 meters radius. By the time you finally finish looting, the enemy is already in a position and ready to kill you. I'm not even mentioning that you are getting overweight with all that loot and you can't run as fast as you wanted to, but that's another story. I know that you can use teams for that, which I guess it's okay. The final manifestation of greed is the one more building syndrome. The raider time is ticking down, you have a solid, respectable loot, but you look at the map and realize you haven't checked that small area yet. You justified it to yourself, thinking you can just run in and run out. You are risking 100% of the guaranteed wealth currently on your backpack for the incredibly slim chance of increasing your total value by 10%. So here's the thing, guys. The moment your backpack is full of decent items, your objective completely changes. You are a courier and your only mission is delivery. You have to decide what a successful raid looks like before you even deploy. Once you hit that threshold, stop looting, stop chasing gunshots, stop checking jackets, put your head down, avoid unnecessary contact, and walk off the map. Because at the end of the day, guys, an empty backpack that you successfully extracted with is infinitely more valuable than a backpack full of crazy loot that belongs to the guy who just looted your body. Rule number 3, guys, is never repick the same angle against a sniper. Never, under any circumstances, repick the same angle against a sniper, and by the way, I'm still making the same mistake myself, but I'm getting there. To understand why this is a guaranteed death sentence, we have to completely break down the mechanics and the psychology of a long-range gunfight. When you are pinned down behind cover by a sniper, there is a massive fundamental imbalance in the mechanics of the engagement. Think about it from the sniper's perspective. When you are behind a cover or at your sniping spot, you don't look away. You don't start checking your inventory, you are making micro adjustments with your mouse, placing your crosshair on the exact pixel of empty space right next to the enemy's picking spot. Your finger is hovering over the left mouse button and you are waiting that millisecond peak to pull the trigger. Now, if we think that scenario from the perspective of the guy that's fighting the sniper, and if you choose to repick that same angle, you are forcing your brain to do 3 complex tasks in a fraction of a second. First, you have to expose your head. Second, you have to visually scan a massive landscape to find the enemy that's hiding somewhere. And third, you have to adjust your crosshair onto their head and fire. The sniper only has to do one thing. Just click. They don't have to search for you, they don't have to aim, and it doesn't matter if you have the reflexes of an esport professional. Human biology and server latency dictate that the player holding the static angle with a decent optic will win that duel 9 times out of 10. So what's the actually tactical solution when you are pinned down? Your first and best option is the hard reposition. You must completely break line of sight. If there is a thick line of trees behind you, use your remaining stamina to sprint from cover to cover in a zigzag pattern until you are out of their field of view. Once you are safe, you start a massive wide flank. I'm talking about rotating 200 meters around the perimeter of the area. I know it's not easy or always viable, but I believe it's the best choice if you want to fight. Now, in a case that you absolutely cannot fall back if your back is literally against the wall, you have to use utility. Throwing a smoke grenade completely negates a sniper's line of sight, allowing you to cross a deadly choke point. But the hardest thing is realizing that you don't actually have to take a fight. If a sniper has a high ground, the better angle, and the element of surprise, the smartest tactical decision you can make is to simply turn around and walk away. Leave to fight another day. Extract with the loot you have and fuck them. Survival is the only metric that matters. Rule number 2 is if something feels wrong, it probably is. Let's talk about the closest thing a gamer will ever get to an actual real-life superpower. It's a phenomenon that you cannot buy from a vendor, you cannot loot from a stash, and you cannot unlock by leveling up. It's the subconscious survival instinct, the gamer's sixth sense. Imagine this scenario. You are approaching a high-tier loot area. You have run this exact route hundreds of times before. You know the exact layout, you know where the bots normally patrol, you know where the doors are, and you know what the ambient audio of the area should sound like. But as you creep up the area, something is off. It's too quiet, which is suspicious in itself. As you keep walking, you see dead bodies and looted areas, and it's pretty clear that the area is looted and there are high chances that someone is still there. So what most players do is thinking that the area is looted and everyone is on their way to extract and there is nothing to fear about. But the sixth sense isn't just about spotting different things, it's about pattern recognition. When you play an extraction shooter for 1,000 hours, your brain builds a massive database of what normal looks and sounds like. You learn the exact time of player spawns. You know that if you spawn on the east side of the map, you will likely cross paths with another player at the river crossing exactly 2 minutes and 30 seconds into the raid. When your gut tells you something is wrong, it's simply your brain's ultra-fast pattern recognition software alerting you. Maybe the ambient sound of the area masking someone's steps, or maybe containers were closed but looted. Never ever, guys, ignore the gut feeling. Never try to rationalize away the red flags. If you approach a building and it gives you a bad vibe, treat it as if a hostile, fully armored 4-man squad is actively aiming at your head. Yeah, I know it's a little too much thinking about like that, but that's what I'm trying to think anyways. So if you ever feel that bad vibe, take cover. Do not move your mouse, do not open your inventory, and do not reload. Just sit in absolute dead silence for 2 full minutes and listen. If someone is waiting for you, they eventually have to move. They will probably do tiny steps, they will check their inventory, or they will premedicate with painkillers. The silence will eventually break. And if the situation still feels hopelessly compromised, turn around. There is zero shame in ditching your plan. Extracting alive with a bad gut feeling is infinitely better than proving your gut right by staring at the death screen. Trust your instincts. If it feels like a trap, it probably is. Rule number 1, guys, is your loot is never yours until you extract. There is a specific, undeniable biological reaction that happens to your body when you open a crate or a safe or loot an enemy and see expensive items, gears, and weapons in the game sitting right there. For a split second, time completely stops. Your brain gets flooded with a massive dose of dopamine, you quickly drag the items into your backpack, and in your mind, you are already a millionaire. You are already calculating how much this is going to sell on the market, and you are already planning out the GOTY loadouts you are going to buy with your newfound wealth. And that right there is the exact moment you have signed your own death. The single biggest mistake players make when they find a high value item is claiming premature ownership of it. You go from being a cold, calculating and rational survivor to a terrified, desperate animal trying to protect its golden egg. Finding rare loot acts like a poison to your tactical discipline, guys. The moment it goes into your backpack, the loot panic sets in. You look at the raid timer, you look at the extraction point on the other side of the map, and suddenly the map feels 10 times larger and every single shadow looks like an enemy sniper. When loot panic takes over, players make one of 2 lethal mistakes. The first mistake is the blind sprint. Driven by pure anxiety and the overwhelming desire to just get out of the raid and secure their money, the player forgets the tactical pathing. They stop clearing their corners, they stop moving from cover to cover, they just hold down the shift key and sprint in a straight line towards the extract, completing draining their stamina. The second mistake is the paralysis. This is the player who gets so absolutely terrified of losing their shiny new toy that they hide into the nearest room, shut the door, and refuse to move for 35 real-world minutes. They hope that if they wait until there are only 2 minutes left in the raid, the map will be empty. But here's the thing, sitting perfectly still destroys your awareness. Your hands get cold, your aim gets stiff, and most probably you're gonna lose the gunfight if someone finds you. So how do you handle these kind of situations? You must maintain the exact same tactical pacing you had before you found the item. If you were playing slow and methodical, you continue to play slow and methodical. If you are playing aggressively, you maintain that momentum. Do not let the loot dictate your tempo, because if you think about it, the reason you survived long enough to find the loot in the first place is because your current playstyle was working. The second you change that playstyle to protect the loot, you break your own rhythm. Treat every single item in your inventory from the cheapest to the most expensive, and I know that's hard, with the exact same level of emotional indifference. You are not a millionaire, you are a courier, and the package hasn't been delivered yet. Think about it this way, guys. Your stash is your bank account. Your backpack is just a temporary storage container that literally anyone on the server has the code to open. Do not celebrate the paycheck until you see the successfully extracted end screen. Let me know, guys, in the comments below any other unwritten rules you know as an extraction shooter player.